sequence of postures. Each one is connected to the breath, so there's an inhale, exhale, and there's different postures all the way through. And I suppose that system made sense to me coming from a meditation mindfulness background, because it was like a moving meditation. I never really had an interest for the lead classes so much, but for this style it did, because it was, I suppose you could say it's like a Tai Chi, very mindful movement, and you're doing it by yourself. There's no leading from any instructor. The instructors are coming around and adjusting you into the postures. So anyway, we were away and she was doing some yoga practice, and I think I must have asked her to teach me a couple of the postures. So she taught me, and for about 10 minutes, she said, you need to do this sequence, do that for a week, and then we'll add and add and add, which is the traditional way of doing it. And yeah, that was quite an interesting experience. I remember being quite, a lot of chatter came up, why am I doing this? This is ridiculous. I'd never really thought of myself doing yoga, so there was a lot of ego stuff coming up, and at that point I knew that was probably a good thing, that I kept going and not just to stop and put it away, because I knew that was just my resistance to going into something new and a little bit different. So yeah, I suppose that I've been practicing that for the last couple of years, and still doing that trying to do it 3 times a week. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it made sense to me, because it was, as I said, like a moving meditation. You're just there by yourself. You're there with your breath. There's a lot of stuff that gets brought up in there as well, and a lot of judgment, and there's also injury, and you have to deal with the injury. So for me, I'm quite, I like to push myself a lot, and achieve and do that. And there was a lot of that as well, trying to get more flexible, trying to push myself into postures that I probably wasn't ready for. And then came injury, and then came disappointment. So it was a really enlightening moment for me to say, okay, let's just take this easy. Let's just be comfortable where we're at. Don't worry about where we're going, but just treat this as, not trying to become, more flexible like the person next to you. It's just trying to use this as meditation, not to try and achieve, the full sequence, and then you do more postures, and then you get given more and all this stuff. So it kind of suited my, the way to challenge my sort of deep patterns of really trying to push and striving and all that stuff.
And was that part of what helped you to sort of persevere with things, like keep the discipline or the practice going, or were there other things that helped?
With the discipline?
Yeah.
It's I mean, I think you do need some of that egoic, wanting to see where it goes, and I think that side of me was sort of brought me for that discipline. Although I've gone off, there are times where I haven't done it for weeks, but generally speaking, I just see the benefit from it, and when you see the benefit of what you're doing, you're more inclined to do that more often, and after you do it for a while, and then you have a couple of weeks off, you realize, and then you fall back into you see more stuff coming up, you fall back into those similar patterns and those irritations, and you realize that actually I'm probably better off sticking at this and trying not to let it go for a period of time. So that has probably kept it going as well.
And when you're thinking about the work that you do, I guess as a physio primarily, what aspects of your practice are most kind of relevant? I don't know if you have any routine or a way that you use it in relation to your work.
It's I wouldn't say routines. I mean, I've thought about because I'm doing a lot of mobile physio as well, seeing someone then coming back to the car and like they taught us with the MBSR type stuff, just taking a few moments to settle yourself, after that session and having that break time. Sometimes I'll do that, but probably quite rarely. Routine wise, it's difficult to say, I suppose, but in terms of its relevance, it makes me, in those sessions, much more present. My mind is not jumping around or thinking about other things. The connection seems to be better with the patients as well. And sometimes especially with the mobile physio, where there's a lot of, we're seeing a lot of old people, and I suppose some of them will struggle to do a lot of the exercises, or you'll show them one week and then they won't, do it quite right the next week. And some of those frustrations will come up in you because you're wanting them to do the right thing. And I suppose it keeps in check. Yeah, for me, I'm able to see those frustrations and those emotions in me come up before I kind of get involved or too attached to those. I'm not sure if you understand what I'm saying there, but yeah. So it's sometimes when
Sorry, go
I was going to say, yeah, sometimes when I haven't done it for a while, I'm getting really antsy, or I suppose you could call it frustration sometimes. If people haven't been doing exercises, or it seems like I'm a bit more irritable sometimes in the session. It's not that I'm irritable all the time, but it's interesting. Notice these subtle things which probably I wasn't aware of before. So it just constantly sort of brings me back, and I can see that a little bit easier when I'm more involved with the mindful practice, if I'm meditating a bit more with the yoga as well. So we see a lot of people with younger onset dementia, and that can be a very sometimes draining experience, and because you're trying to get something done, but it's not happening the way you want it sometimes. And I think in general, when we want something done and it's not going to plan, we can get a bit flustered, and I suppose that's where it's helping as well. Still happens, but yeah.
Have you noticed whether there's anything environmental or any sort of conditions that either hinder or help with some of what you've described? Your willingness or ability to sort of be really present and be patient, and to be practicing mindfully.
Doing the physio mindfully, or is this just practice my own personal practice?
Oh, sorry, practicing your work, so practicing physio.
Yeah, environmentally, I think that for me, if there's outside noise or the TV's blaring or things like that, it's more difficult to access that or to come back to that more present feel. I suppose it's noises, something like that, or even if I haven't slept well, that can sometimes come into it too. So it's probably those things. I'm trying to think of others. I suppose if it's a warm day, if it's I've been in the car all day and it's hot, and that probably limits me a little bit as well in terms of how much I can become present in that moment. I'm probably more flustered at that stage if I'm a bit warmer or something like that. Hunger, that too. All those things.
Yes, yeah. And I'm interested to understand if you notice mindfulness making any sort of difference or having any effect on your workplace relationships. So, maybe other physios or other healthcare providers that you work with.
What I was doing recently has been, physio is a very well, what I've been doing has been very solo, I suppose. We do have interaction with others. I'm not sure how that would